heartfelt namaste. I, Anuradha, would like to thank all of you for liking, sharing, subscribing to our YouTube and Spotify channels and writing in your comments and your suggestions there. Please don't forget to press the bell icon so that you can get the notifications of all the videos once they are released. Today, we are going to talk about the 12th house. What does the 12th house represent? And what does the 12th lord in different houses mean? When we talk about the 12th house, the first thing that we have in our mind is that the 12th house represents losses. Well, the 12th house, to begin with, is supposed to be the end of life, because Lagna, the first house, talks about the start of life. So where does this all end? It all ends in the 12th house. So in the 12th house, it becomes impertinent that we end up putting in a lot of energy. There is a loss of our energy, our vitality, the place where we put in a lot of energy, so that once this energy is dissipated, we can meet our end. So that is also a place where you put in a lot of energy, where your entire work can be seen from. So this is also the house of losses, and losses can be of two types. One loss, or one is an expenditure that you make. An expense can not just be in terms of money only. Yes, money is important and money is a huge part of it, but it can also be an expense of time. It can also be the loss of your virya, that is your virility, which then relates to the bed pleasures. So it can also be your spending on many things. For example, if somebody has their 12th lord in the 4th house or their 4th lord in the 12th house, in that case, a person could be spending a lot of money on home and comfort, security of home. If there's a Dasha, Antardasha period going on of your 7th lord, and the 7th lord happens to be in the 12th house, such a person could be spending a lot on their partners, or could be facing losses on account of their partners. Because the 12th house is also about, as I said, the expenditure that you make willingly or voluntarily. Now, if it is a benefic planet, which we'll do later on when we do planets in the 12th house, posited in the 12th house, I'll give you an ability to do things in a proper manner, in a religious manner, in a to gift to people who are in need and things like that. Now, if the 12th house also, as I said, it's also the loss. So that loss could also be something that you are not willing to do, but all of a sudden it happens very quickly. So in that case, that is the loss that you're facing unaccountably, and the first case is charity. So here I always tell people that if I see a transit happening in the 12th house, or for that matter, an aspect on the 12th house, or the 12th lord being in a house, I'd rather gift somebody something, because I know that expense has to be done. So expense on account of what? If your 12th lord is in the 10th house, you could be making an expense on account of your work. If your 12th lord is in the 11th house, you could be making an expense on account of expansion of work, getting name and fame. You could also be making your expenses on account of family. You could be gifting things. You could be spending on family and friends, because 11th house also relates to family and friends. If your 12th lord is transiting the 5th house, you could have a lot of expenses on account of your children. So that is why that is something that you're doing it voluntarily. And charity is also something that you're doing voluntarily. So if there's a connect of your 12 and 12th lord, 5th lord, or your 5th lord is in the 12th house, you would give a lot in terms of charity, depending on the planet that is sitting there. Or if your 12th lord is sitting in the 5th house, because 5th house is also charity, you would be associated with an organization which does a lot of charitable work, like an NGO. Now, when we talk about the 12th house, the 12th house is also foreign travels. So depending on the placement of the 12th lord, we can see whether the foreign travels is on account of pleasure, on account of work, or on account of settlement outside. The 12th house is also about discharge of debt. So somebody takes a debt. Debt can be seen from the 6th house. I have taken a debt that can be seen from the 6th house. That debt is, when will that be paid? Because again, as we have been talking about losses and expenditures, discharge of debt also talks about letting go of a lot of money. So that is also losses that we face, and hence your loans are being discharged. It's also about comfort of the bed, as I had mentioned and explained earlier. The imprisonment is the loss of your freedom. And so this 12th house also talks about imprisonment. If your second lord happens to be in the 12th house, or if your 7th lord happens to be in the 12th house, your spouse can face imprisonment at one point, or you could face imprisonment on account of your partners at one particular point in time. This is also the loss of face. So loss of your name and fame. So humility can also be seen from the 12th house. Fall from office. Now, Sanket Nidhi talks about fall from office. Sanket Nidhi as well as Uttar Kalamir also talk about fall. That fall could also be of a person falling down. Or if the Lagna Lord is in the 12th house, or the 12th Lord is in the on the Lagna, then the person could be falling down from a high place. That can be literal, it could be metamorphical. Why so? Because the person could be falling from a place of office to a place which is quite low in life. It's just like the Jeshta Mula connection, to be honest. And it is also the purchase of luxury goods, and in the body parts, it also shows your ankles, it shows your feet basically, and it also shows your left eye. So if the 12th lord, now let us talk about the 12th lord in the 12 houses. If the 12th lord is sitting in the Lagna, it's a good place if a person is a surgeon, if a person is related to medical professions. The 12th house also talks about far away, reclusive places. So the person can also be generous enough to be working in reclusive areas, could be reclusive himself, or could be a good surgeon, because the 12th house also talks about the medical industry. It talks about hospitals also, and hospitalization. So if you don't want to be hospitalized, you don't want to spend your money there, you can always move into the field of medicine, or you can donate a lot of medicine. If the 12th lord is in the second house, I've often found that these people would either lose money on account of work, or they would be spending a lot on their family, or they would be going out to faraway places to earn their livelihood, because the second house is also about your livelihood. If they confine themselves to a small area, like we can check this out in the chart of Queen Elizabeth. Over a period of time, her finances have started coming down. She has an exalted 12th Lord Mars placed in the house in the second house with Jupiter. So her finances, we have to check the Deshkal Patra. Her finances are not as low as they can be, but definitely they are getting lower. And then we have the second lord, 12th lord placed in the third house. When the 12th lord is placed in the third house, until and unless it does not have afflictions, until and unless there are strong planets present there, this person could be quite timid. Why? Because third house is courage. You lose out on your courage, and you are shy, you have a problem interacting with people. It is the case with Hrithik Roshan. As a child, he was quite a shy child because he had impediments to begin with. But these people can also have hearing problems, especially if there is a debilitated planet there, because the third house talks about the hearing issues also. And if it's Jupiter which is debilitated, as in the case of Hrithik Roshan, there definitely is going to be hearing issues, because Jupiter rules over the year. Then we talk about the 4th house. See, the 12th house is also going to give you international name and fame. And the 4th house is related to the masses. So I've often seen that people who have a relationship between the 12th house and the 4th house, like Louis Hay, or for that matter, Hema Malini, when these people have an association with the 4th house, then 12th lord in the 4th house, then these people have a very strong connect with the masses. These people also have problems with their parent, specifically their mother. Louis Hay's mother, along with Louis Hay, was subjected to a lot of abuse, and Louis Hay had to leave her parental home at a young age of 16. She had to leave her mother also at that age. Hema Malini also was quite dominated by her mother. So there can be problems, issues with the mother, but they can also, depending on the planet that there is, like in the case of Hema Malini, we can see that her lord again is Mercury, and it's with Ketu. So the mother could be very righteous, mother could have a lot of strict attitude. Mercury is also about doing things on a regular basis, but thanks to her mother, she became an ace dancer. Then we talk about the lord of the 12th house in the 5th house. As I told you earlier on, when the lord of the 12th house is in the 5th house, to get the maximum results, one can be working in an NGO. One could be very famous internationally also, because the 12th house also deals with name and fame, and the 5th house also deals with your name and fame. But since the 5th house is 6 houses away from the 12th house, so getting there is a lot of a struggle. It's to do a lot of hard work. I'm using one of the principles of Faldipika, on which I have made a video earlier on, whether the planet will be able to deliver the results of his house properly or not. Now, when we're talking about the 5th house, again, 5th house is charity. 5th house is mantra shakti. So you could be using a lot of your time doing a lot of mantras, because the 12th lord is in the 5th house. You're using that energy, that time, to do a lot of mantras. It could also be a fact that you could be teaching others, for just because the 5th house is also teaching and children, and the 12th house is doing a lot of charity work, free work. It could also mean that you do not have very good relationships, or over a period of time, your relationship with your children might fetter, because the 12th house is the house of loss, and 5th house is your house of children. So you can face certain amount of losses there. As I repeat time and time again, we can use certain amount of energy. The other part of it, we will have to bear it, because the 12th house is one of the prarabdha houses. Let's talk about the 5th lord in the 6th house. When we have the 5th lord in the 6th house, see, because if I take the chart of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, he was very well known. He'd given up his life for freedom of the country, which is something that he was not paid for. And his children, Jupiter is a Karaka there. It's a Karaka of children also. He has Jupiter in the 5th house, which is also his 12th lord, and the 9th lord. His children were, he had a daughter, but he was not able to spend much time. There's a loss of relationship between him and his child. Then we move on to the lord of the 12th house in the 6th house. The lord of the 12th house and the 6th house, here the lord is also aspecting its own house. So a person would be prone to doing a lot of service to others. In case of Rabindranath Tagore, we saw that it is the planet Saturn. This Saturn is also about servitude. So he becomes a very service-oriented person, wanting to do things for others without anything back in expectation. It can be any planet, but the fact remains that the 6th house is also about your health, and the 12th house is about hospitalization. So if a person is into doing service to others, then the person will not be getting into hospitalizations and things like that, because he's already giving his time, he's already dedicating himself to certain causes. If the 12th Lord is in the 6th house, then such a person also has a very strict routine. Such a person is also very very strongly attracted, adhered to his workings. Okay, and if the 12th Lord is in the 6th house, the health regime of the person is also very strong. As we see in the case of Rajneesh Osho, will be taking up the 12th Lord in the 7th house. As I told you, if the 12th Lord is in the 7th house earlier on, you could be facing challenges with partners, you could be facing separations. Again, the 12th Lord is 8th houses away from it, so there can be a lot of past life connect with your partners. Now, if the 12th Lord is also in the 7th house, then you could have partners of international name and fame, or you could be making partners who are from a foreign area. Such people can also interact with foreigners. They can be investing in foreign companies outside also, and that can bring in results for them. When on a very serious note, one has to be, if there are a lot of malefic influences on the 12th Lord and the 7th Lord in a chart, then a person can also be subjugated to a lot of abuse in the relationship. When we move on to the 8th house, the 8th Lord being there in the, the 12th Lord being in the 8th house, there's a serious connect there. First and foremost, it is a Viprit Raj Yoga. When we go doing a lot of Viprit Raj Yoga. Have I not mentioned? I'd like to mention it here also, that when the 12th Lord is in the 6th house, that also constitutes a Viprit Raj Yoga. So when the 12th Lord is in the 8th house, the person has a problem to begin with, but that problem he can easily encounter in life, and sudden changes in life give him prominence and upward direction. The 12th house and the 8th house both are also associated with the comforts of the bed. So that can also make a person have a roving eye, have relationships, secret relationships outside of marriage. On the other hand, the 12th house also relates to your connect with the divinity, and the 8th house is also your sadhana. So a person can also move into the direction which is to do with the connection of the divinity. Here we can take the two charts. The first one can be of Osho. Here we see Mars, which is the 12th Lord, is in the 8th house. For him, it was movement from Bhog to Yoga. And we can also take the chart of our King Henry, not our King Henry, who was one of the most infamous rulers of England, and he has his 12th Lord Moon placed well in the 8th house. So here we see that, and he was supposed to be called to be one of the most villainous kings that ever were, and he had executed his life partners for the want so that he could move on to other partners also. There's a lot of material available on him on the YouTube and as well as Wikipedia. Please do go through it so that you understand what the 12th Lord in the 8th house on a basic level can give people. On a higher scale, it can take you to a very special place of sadhana and research. When we have the 12th Lord placed in the 9th house, then these people will travel abroad. These people can be people who have a wanderlust. They want to see, experience a lot of things. Everything for them becomes an experience. And these people, nowadays, we have a lot of YouTubers who go around the world, who kind of talk on the food of different places, or they talk about the culture of different places. This go for sightseeing, and you have a lot that you can absorb right from there. They must be having a very strong 12th, 9th connect, because the 9th is also about your culture. It's also about finding out the truth. It's also about experiencing things. And the 12th house is also about foreign countries. It's also connecting with the divinity. And we all have divinity within us, but this is going out of a little esoteric. But the 9th and the 12th does connect in this way. And these people will also go out on pilgrims to exotic locales also. Then we can, when we have our 12th Lord present in the the 9th house, as with in the case of Dhirubhai Ambani, we also saw that his money, and initially he had gone out abroad to start working and then came back and made good money with it. We have the 10th Lord being 12th Lord being in the 10th house. Then you have a rise in profession. In case of A.R. Rahman, have taken a start many times. We see that it's a Digvali Mars, which is also the 5th Lord and aspects the 5th house also. So that is why he got such a lot of name and fame. But if the 10th Lord, 12th Lord is in the 10th house, then such a person would be moving, changing jobs, or such a person could have his job out of India. He could be working for an MNC. Such a person could also be working in the industry which is associated with the night shifts and work late into the night, because the 12th house is basically to do much towards the end of the day. And when we talk about the 12th Lord in the 11th house, this is not a very favorable position. Honestly speaking, it is the 12th Lord in the 11th house, and it is also, if you take it, 12 to 12. So such a person can be facing a lot of losses. Such a person may not be having too many friends. Such a person can be having more enemies than friends. That is the case that we see in the case of Marilyn Monroe. Such a person could be earning a lot or seeming to earn a lot, but in terms of what the others have earned, you may not be doing it on the same scale. And Marilyn Monroe, she did not earn, she did a lot of work. She had a name and fame, but the kind of money that she was supposed to be paid, she did not get it on the same level as other actresses. When we come to the 12th Lord in the 12th house, this is a good place. It is definitely a Viprit Rajyog, as well as any Lord sitting in its own house protects it. So if it's a benefic planet, it definitely helps you in the way that you spend your money. You would be spending it on a religious purpose. You would be spending it on purposes to help others. If it's Jupiter, you would be wanting to buy a lot of gold. If it's Venus, you would be wanting to spend it on luxury items. But you would also be wanting to go abroad to study, and you would be good at education, because that is the connect that you have. Jupiter, Venus, they give you an ability to move into a lot of sadhana. If it's Saturn, you would again be doing a lot of service, because Saturn is the Karaka of the 12th house. And if it's Saturn and it's sitting there as a 12th Lord, then you would be doing service, but without telling others. Saturn has an ability to help you do service without telling others. But if it is associated with other houses, other connotations will also follow through. And Saturn then also gives you an ability to work with base people there. Mars, you would want to show off, because Mars is energy. It is expanding in energy in giving and showing off. If we have Mercury there, Mercury gets debilitated in the 12th house of the natural zodiac. So what does it show? It shows that a person would be more of compassion and less of the logical mind. We'll take this in detail when we do the planets in 12th house. Till then, stay tuned and don't forget to write how your 12th Lord works, parent works, and what you see in the charts of others. Till we meet with you again, please hit the bell icon for fresh updates. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on the videos, and please subscribe to our channel.